Greetings, Universus Players, and welcome back to another video. This time around, I'm back with my thoughts on my Midoriya V deck that I profiled a while back. I wanted to go over this one because I've played it in a tournament recently. I have thoughts about this deck, and I really want to kind of go through them with you guys. For those of you that have not seen this format before, what I'm intending to do is go through all the cards in the deck, give my thoughts on them, where they kind of sit in terms of how they performed when I played the deck, give you an idea of what I experienced over the course of playing that deck, and then at the end, I kind of want to give an assessment of whether I want to play this deck in its current iteration more, iterate on it a bit further, or maybe scrap it altogether. But that'll be at the end. The other thing that I'm going to go over is my sideboard choices. I don't go over those in the deck profile. I'm going to go over them here, why I made them, and what I think about them in that context. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's start with kind of a bit of a tournament report. So this was a 3-round locals. I went 2-1. I played round 1 against Ochiko 4, round 2 against Hawks on Order, and my win streak came to an end at the end of things in round 3 versus Denki Kaminari 1 on air. And that's kind of like the way that it went. This deck performed well. It did what it was supposed to do over the course of the tournament, and I'm quite happy with that. But I definitely think that it could be better. I'm not pleased with its performance against Kaminari because both of us just basically killed each other on turn 2, and he got to go first. So that's just kind of how it goes. But that's the nature of the game. But let's get into the individual cards. Let's see how this profile shaped out over the course of a tournament. I'm gonna go ahead and do this in the same order that I presented it to you guys in that video. And I'm gonna start with Air Force Gloves, and holy crap, this card is insane. This card synergizes extremely well with the entire attack lineup, with none of it having printed stun. Being able to just give everything stun and be able to turn on my character, very, very important. This card was extremely good. I don't know whether I want to go up from 2 copies to 3, but I might. It might be worth it. Next is Capture Evildoers. Capture Net. Create Capture Net. This card is very good. I think this card also goes in Overperformer. It being stun 3 on its own, as long as you have at least 1 foundation in your hand, is very good, because you're able to get 1 stun from the Air Force Gloves, 2 more from itself, stun 3, then give it stats. It's a great opener. And I think that this card was very good in all the matchups that I played. It being a low attack also helps with this deck's lineup, makes blocking against this very difficult. I'm gonna go through the next 2 in tandem with each other, that being Hardened Barrage and Rapid Punches. These also go in Overperformers. These carried the deck. These are by far the best attacks in this deck. Both of them have on-hit functionality, and they get speed from my character. It makes things very difficult. They also just pump their own stats in a very favorable way. Any amount of these that I saw generally got jammed into my card pool and down the other player's throat. It was not pleasant for them. It was great for me. Next is Last Second Release. This card was fine. I don't think that it did much more than it needed to do. It was good at opening up strings when I didn't have Air Force Gloves, or even if I did, I could ready something that they have, pinpoint commit something, stun something, ready the thing that I stunned. It was a lot of good stuff that was going on here, but it never impressed me beyond this did what I wanted it to do. Justice Rush, I feel very similarly about. The whole point of this deck was to make Justice Rush work, because I like that card conceptually, and being able to combine it with Air Force Gloves and its own innate abilities to make it stun 2 plus additional damage and additional speed. This card was good, but it was never great. It never felt like it was the best thing that I could be doing, and I think that kind of holds it back. Next is St. Louis Smash. I'm putting this in bad. This card just didn't do it for me. I don't think that it functions well within this kit. It did not spark joy. It really just didn't. So I don't think I'm gonna be playing this card anymore. That rounds out the attacks, so let's go to the foundations. Prone to Dry Eyes was good. It and Snack Time kind of competed with each other a little bit, but this definitely won me games, but it also just had games where it never came up. So I'm not majorly impressed with it, but I'm not depressed about having it here. I feel very much the same way about defending Pageant Queen. This card was very, very strong when I needed it, and when I didn't, it just sat there and did nothing. And that's okay. Sometimes, like, that's what this card's supposed to do, is be a deterrent. And I'm pleased with what it did. I run a second copy of it in the sideboard, and I'm happy to keep it there. I don't have any reason to reduce the quantity of this card at all, ever. Next is Air Force Style. This card is insane. This was the biggest key to a lot of my victories, being able to take what my rival is doing that they're readying and just shuffle it back into their deck. It just put them behind in a lot of cases, and it let me just run away with games. I'm very pleased that this is a 4 of in my deck, and it will not be changing anytime soon. Next is Specialist of Sound. This card was fine. It did what it was supposed to do. It reduced my rival's speed, and it sometimes got me a little bit of extra information. But yeah, it just did what it was supposed to. I don't have any complaints about this card. I do have complaints about this card. Multitasking was bad. This card just didn't do anything for me. It feels like it was in here to be a low block, and because it said ready a rival foundation, I just don't think that was good enough. For 1/1, it realistically, just mathematically, since I'm readying one of my rival's foundations, is just a +1 damage rather than being +1/+1. And the deck has okay damage. I'm also just okay doing printed damage many times. So I don't think this card did anything for this deck. I think I could replace it and be happy. I'm gonna put Chivalrous Competitor in good. It definitely came in handy a lot, being able to combine it with Hardened Barrage and unflip it to just kind of artificially increase my hand size. Very welcome in this deck. This deck definitely has some six-hander problems occasionally, but it's not super common. You really only feel that when you only have one attack. So I'm definitely down to just draw more cards and unflip it with Hardened Barrage or whatever else that I need to unflip. This card was fine. I run a 4th copy of it in the sideboard to round out that playset in case I'm against somebody who is very aggressively flipping my foundations, or in case I just need a little bit of extra card draw or an extra low block. I think I'm quite content to leave it that way. Snack Time. I don't know whether it goes in. I'm gonna put it in good because I put Prone to Dry Eyes in good. Those two have a very similar function within the deck, and that is to take my extra cards and turn them into stats. And I am pleased with both of them. I run Snack Time at 3 copies rather than just the one Prone to Dry Eyes. But it was never... It never felt like it was the game-winning card, so I don't think it deserves to go higher than Prone to Dry Eyes. But they're both very good. I like having them both here. I wouldn't change that. Celebrity Status was fine. I put it in here because I hit a fair amount with the attacks in my character because I give a lot of speed. So being able to take them on subsequent turns and put them on top of my deck in order to draw them with my character was very beneficial. But it never felt crazy because it was basically always these two. And I think what I am lacking is some sort of big haymaker that makes this deck just extremely threatening at any given point. And I don't think that celebrity status would fit in subsequent versions of this deck, but in what I've got here, it felt very good. Your finished was fine. Most of my games don't go to deadlock, but when they do, this card really shines. But otherwise, it was just a 0 diff with a 3+ block mod. It did occasionally come up when I had my hand a little bit over flooded with attacks. I would discard a copy of something that I already had out there and flip them to draw more cards. So it does have some extra utility with this character, but I wouldn't say that it takes it from being good to an overperformer. I think it just stays where it is. Easily Excited also just goes in good. This card just does one thing and it does it well. And that's really all you can expect it to do, is just give a little extra speed from time to time. And that's good enough. It doesn't need to be much more than that. So now I've got my other 4 cards down here. These were my sideboard options in addition to the 1 extra copy of Defending Pageant Queen and 1 extra copy of Chivalrous Competitor. I ran each of these at 2 copies. So I'm going to start with Airy Smiles. I think this card was very good when I saw it. It's something that I want to put in against the really aggressive decks to stop them from attacking me. Ochiko 4 and Kaminari both come to mind, and I think this card was very good into both of them. I saw it very early on against Ochiko 4, but I didn't see it against Kaminari, and I think if I had had it against Kaminari, it might have made a difference. So I'm going to put it in good. It does what it's supposed to do. Disclaimer, this was the deck profile was recorded pre-Capture Evildoers ban. This is recorded post-Evildoers ban, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in good. It does what it's supposed to. It was mostly here to grab momentum from time to time and occasionally clear my card pool. Much like it was with Endeavor, this card doesn't really do a whole lot in this character, because I'm not just like taking extra turns. I want to kind of stack cards in my card pool, so removing them kind of feels bad. But it's still fine. It still is a very good card to have around. And I just think it was fine. Villains Defeated, I am going to put into good. I think this card is very solid. I did wind up putting it in against Hawks, and my goal with it was to remove his feathers, but then I remembered once I tried it on one of them, oh yeah, they just go to the bottom of the deck, which is a fine solution, but it doesn't solve problems. It didn't do what I 100% wanted it to do in that matchup, but it did what I wanted it to do in general, because it did mess up his ability to go for Feather Sword Slash, which allowed him to ignore progressive if there are 4 or more cards in his card pool. He wasn't going to be able to get to that point without that other feather, so getting it out of there was good. I wouldn't say that it was great, but it was good. Eyes of the Tiger. I have this in my sideboard because I have a local Tokoyami player, and I just didn't pair into him, so I never put this in. I don't know exactly how it would function in this deck. It feels fine in a conceptual way, but I didn't really get to establish an opinion on this one. It just didn't come up. And that brings it to the end of my thoughts on the individual cards. So I kind of want to talk about the deck itself. I like this deck at a conceptual level, but every time I put a card in my card pool, I just went, I'd rather be playing air. And I think that's just something that I have to reassess this deck. And if I revisit Midoriya V, it's going to be on air. I think that is going to be way more fun. It has some cooler cards that I'm able to play around with. I still get to play with a solid core of this, but I'm able to do a lot more with air than I am with all. And that's kind of what I want. I don't want this to be like the most competitive deck ever. This is kind of a fun little side project for me, but I don't want my fun side projects to feel held back by my own choices. And that's how I felt about this one. So I'm gonna reassess that and come back to this on the air symbol and see how I feel about it at a later date. But for now, that's my thoughts. I think this deck was fun, but I want to see what it can do in a different light. So I'm gonna leave it there. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, tell me what your thoughts are. I'd be happy to hear them. And until next time, just watch me.